Hey y'all. I couldn't sleep, so I haven't been feeling well, so I got my schedule all upside down. So I figured I'd do a video. Iowa in the Xfinity series. Just as a note, this is recorded on PC, where most of my Nascar Heat 4 work has been done up until the last couple weeks. Got like 11 seasons in. I think I'm in the 11th or 12th season. This is the season before that. The 5th season that I put online on YouTube. I just started doing the voice commentaries. The others have written commentary in the description. I use pedals, Logitech G29, manual with shifter. So I use the clutch pedal. It's the drive stick. And I've been on the track, so not a big deal. Except, you get a little, like when the wheel moves around and you're going for second and you end up in fourth. You know, it doesn't usually happen the other way around. That's what usually happens for me. So on a road course, that's not good. Going up through the gears is never really a problem. Unless I try to get too much and it doesn't register in my fast clutch pedal foot. So anyway, we're at Iowa. I do full-length races in this video series. All the seasons to date that I've posted. I will notate when I don't. Full length, one times wear. Pretty much just like you see on TV, which is what I was going for. Working on setups, working on racing, familiarization. When it comes to, you know, tracks like you've never been to before, it's no substitute for practice. Go online, do quick races, you know, whatever you got to do. If you have no idea what the setup is, you can't find one, do a default, go in the middle. Just put it right down in the middle and see what happens. You know, some tracks work well in the middle, depending on what series that you're in. Well, I found that Cup cars in general prefer less loose, and trucks can handle more loose. But it depends on each track. Each track is different. There is no magic number. You know, like you might be running a 5 at Dover in the Cup Series, and then when you go to Charlotte, you might be needing a 6 or a 7. All depends. Anyway, so here we are at Iowa. It's really, really loose. Iowa is probably the short track. Iowa and Gateway, probably the two short tracks I have the least experience on. Mainly because of brakes, you know, and all the other sims, brakes was an issue. Any track like a road course with hard brakes, I kind of avoided until NASCAR 15 when I was able to actually figure out with the driver software from my then G27, Logitech software that worked with that wheel and pedals, because the G29 requires a different driver and setup program. And they're not compatible with each other, so you have to have specific. But through that one, I was able to set sensitivities and really get them to work, regardless of what you did in game. And I got the brake pedal working really, really well. I didn't do a lot of road course work, but it really helped on the short tracks. But I didn't run too many short tracks. You know, I don't even think they had Iowa and Gateway and NASCAR 15. Yeah, those Xfinity tracks and truck tracks and such, and they didn't have that there. So, they run a lot of Martinsville. Did really well at Martinsville. Fortunately, I can't run as well in Martinsville because of the brake situation. But talking about brakes, at Iowa here, it's kind of a fast short track. So you're up to like, you know, 160 miles an hour down the front stretch, because it's a curved D-shaped oval, I think they might call it. without a tri-oval, of course, just a curved front stretch, which allows you to get, you know, a lot of speed. So you want to take advantage of the speed down the front stretch here. Now I got the gearing set a certain way for a couple of reasons. Number one, I have a tendency to I have a lead foot. Was that song, you know, a big foot on the gas? Yeah, well, that's me. And I have a tendency to overdrive the corners. And since I'm not used to, like Bristol I'm used to, but I'm not used to recently because I couldn't drive Bristol because of a variety of reasons in NASCAR 15. It just was horrible. I couldn't get a setup to do anything there, so I just simmed it, took whatever I got, which is unfortunate because I really like Bristol. So here I can run Bristol, but I really don't use the brake, except to tap, like, you know, if I'm going to back into somebody or something, I just tap on the brake, and you can hear it when I tap on the brake. So with my heavy gearing, even though I'm not going full speed, it allows the engine to brake for me into the turns, and hit on a setup that actually works quite well at. And you know, this is a kind of track which is kind of conducive to rolling into the turn anyway. So it's kind of like a perfect storm. Even though this is my first full race in Xfinity at Iowa. I think I only did one other truck race, so I really didn't hit on any setup that was worth anything until this race. And I said, because I go to every race, I work on the setups, I practice. If I got something that I feel I can run competitively with, even if it's just the top 10, I'll race it. Unless for whatever reason, you know, I don't have time at that moment, and I want to get to the next track or whatever. But I usually race it. And I prefer to race it because you can finish higher when you race it. See, like here, I'm using tire strategy. For you who've been watching my videos know that, yeah, it's pit. Unfortunately, there's like over 20 guys on the lead lap, so yeah, see, hit the brake. You heard that. So I got to work up through about twice as many cars as I really need to be doing with that pit strategy. But the car just gives up too much in this version of the setup. I improve it because I took this setup in a version online, and I won a couple Iowa races with it. So I was like, essentially, it started out real loose and had to tighten it up. And it was one of those situations, as I talked about in the last vid, that I noticed I don't have enough wedge for NASCAR Heat 4. For some reason, NASCAR Heat 4 likes the wedge for the weight balance. Not because it's loose, it's just off. And the wedge kind of balances out the chassis weight better, so you can go faster, you know, specifically in the turns. It's weird. But it's acting more like I'm familiar with guys on TV talking about it. You know, you come to the track with the wedge set, and you really don't move it. So it has become much less of a tool at the track. And if you're moving wedge even a little bit, they consider it a major setup change now. So it's like set your wedge, and then, you know, your front to rear weight, and then just go from there and see what you can do. It's a good setup that I have come upon after adjusting at this point in the race that you're watching here. You know, it's not perfect. It needs some more, and I did work on it and did adjust a little bit more. There's some things I did with air pressure. I changed the springs around a bit, probably worked on the shocks. Yeah, the way I learned how to set up a chassis is you set your weight first, which you think is going to be, you know, for the track, or if somebody gives it to you, and then you go with kind of neutral settings on everything else. And then you see what the car or truck is doing, figure out what you need it to do or what you want it to do, because they're not always the same thing, and because, you know, everybody's got an individual style. I like a particular setup that kind of leans into the turns, and see, it's not doing that here. I'm turning way too much. It's tight, or it's tighter than I want it to be, but it's stable, which is half the battle, and that's why I'm able to run how and where I'm running. But I'm starting to fall back now after, what, 10, 15 laps or something. Oop, didn't mean to do that. Yeah, that's because I couldn't hold it down. So I didn't realize the net was there because I was sliding up and worried more about hitting the guy on, you know, outside of me than a net dive bombing me, which you get a lot of on short tracks, which is a little bit annoying. Most guys won't stick their nose in as far or as often, you know, knowing that you're probably gonna, you know, once you get to mid-corner, you're gonna cut down on them. Not because you're trying to block them, but because that's kind of how cars tend to handle when they get on worn tires, in a lot of ways. Sometimes, you know, it depends on your setup, but, you know, it could be third and a third and a third, and that's like a third of the cars will do that depending on how they're set up for longer runs when the tires wear. I'm tight, so it'll slide the front, and then it'll catch. And when it catches, it cuts left. And you know, it's kind of like if you're behind somebody and you see that they're tight, and you know there's 20 laps into a run or something, and you can kind of like, yeah, probably shouldn't get under him there. And you go to the outside, because if he's in the outside lane or halfway in the outside lane, if he cuts like you expect him to, then you'll have an open lane, and you'll know that you can pass him on the outside. But that's kind of advanced. And the AI cars don't drive like that, but human drivers drive like, you know, so like that's not like an online thing. For the AI, they're very predictable. You can figure, you know, what's going on with them. I wish they were a little bit more animated in that they'd show, you know, tight and loose a little bit more. But it seems like when they stop handling, they go up top. So if you're handling good and you know, and you want to pass people, here, see those guys? They're up top. See? So even though my car is not perfect, I just gained ground on Jones. He's right next to me. So I just pulled up, what, 2-3 car lengths in the last set of turns. And now maybe, almost past him, but he's got the high line out of the fast corner onto the fast straight. But I managed to stay ahead of him because I hit him. Didn't mean to, but he must have checked up. But you see, that's a good way to gain ground. Also, I just learned that a lot of the top guys for speed online and offline, in order to help with braking, they go into gameplay on your settings. Gameplay, not driving, gameplay. It's the first menu in settings. And they turn brake smoothing on. Well, it's not in this race, but I have started using it and ran a few races with it, and makes a big difference. I was practicing setup for Gateway, and everybody knows, not bad, top 10. Everybody knows at Gateway, you know, you get on there first turn, go down in the first turn, full speed, trying to maintain and keep position and not wreck, and you hit the brakes, boom, you can shoot to the right real easy. That's because most setups there, your right side tires, specifically your right front, has more air than your left front. And when you brake with uneven tire pressure like that, with equal control arms and A-arms and suspension pieces, then it's just going to pull to whichever side has more air in it, or more spring pressure. And you also use more spring on the outside typically for a setup like that. So, you know, it just makes it worse. When you hit the brake, you shoot to the right. And it can really catch you by surprise the first time. So in real racing, because they use what's called an asymmetrical setup, the right side suspension is different than the left side, also front to back, but that's more normal. But and for real advanced setups, you know, all 4 corners are different for, you know, fine tuning and so on and so forth. The bottom line is that in racing they do different length control arms, different length stuff to limit that fresh tire, low tire pressure difference. So when the tires build up, it's not as drastic, you know. And of course they balance it for their setup or car or chassis, so they know that when the tires do build pressure, it won't inadvertently shoot to the left too much. But then the driver can adjust the brake bias in the car in real life, and nice air there in real life, and you know, make that effect less, you know, so it's easier to drive. Oops, that's my bad. Got a Chastain there. But he kept going good. So brake smoothing kind of makes it so you don't shoot left or right so much. You can still adjust yourself out with brake bias in the setup, and you can't adjust it during the race. So having the right overall brake bias for what you're doing is still a necessity. But it also makes pitting on older tires easier too. It'll tell you right down in the menu, because I read it before I selected it, and I figured, you know, let me see the difference. So I put on a high. I think it's lower high is the options, or off, low, and high. So I got it on high. And it's been working. It's been working. As far as this race at Iowa here goes, yeah, I had a good car. It's a good setup. It just falls off, and it was doing weird things. I actually took the lead late in the race there. That was before the clip started, I think, and then we had a caution after I started falling back. So basically, you know, like if I took the setup online and like I did, adjusting it a bit for Cup, you know, it got crazy loose because you got 750 horsepower at Iowa. You know, any track under, I think Darlington. I don't remember if Darlington's 750 or 4, because it's only 1.33 miles, not 1.5 miles. But all the short tracks, you get full horsepower in the Cup. That just burns up that right rear, and it's like all your setups, if you're translating from Cup, Xfinity, truck, Xfinity, Cup, and so on and so forth. Once you get up in the in Cup, you kind of like got to know that it might be a good setup as long as you don't hit the gas. So you use a very high gearing. Low numerically is considered high gearing, so you don't burn the tires as much, but you lose acceleration down the straights. Dirt trackers, you know, deal with this all the time because they have limited traction. So it's like, yeah, you want like a high gear for driving it, but you want a low gear because once you get it going, you want to keep it going faster than the other guy down the straight. So it's kind of balance, you know, it's kind of thing. And it's the same at short tracks. Not bad. We got 6 wins on the season up to Iowa. Yep. 23-2. Wow. Yeah, see, I can't get that fast. But I don't really try. I mean, I'd like to. You know, if I get a setup together and I get in to start practicing and I'm like, you know, within 2 or 3 tenths, I'll work on it to get there. But sometimes a super fast setup means you're sacrificing on the long run. So you really want to know what you're racing. If you're racing 20-lap races, 10-lap races, go for the speed. If you're racing, you know, 50% length, like a lot of leagues do and such, then you probably don't want to go that route so much. You want to make the tires last longer. Let's see. I got banged around, and I banged some people around in this one because I'm really working on the setup. Not bad. Still in first place. Cup race. Where was it? Sonoma. Yeah, I did not race that race. It's new Sonoma. I tried it and I don't remember. I used to race it a long time ago, and plus I gotta work on a setup for Sonoma. I got a decent one for Watkins Glen and Canadian Tire, but not for Sonoma. I'll figure it out. Well, thank you all for watching. More to come. Keep rolling.